One and all, welcome back to Illustrated by D4S, where this month's advanced art tip is all about stick figures. Listen, I'm going somewhere with this. My name is D4S and I will be your host. This episode's time-lapse features my original work, Lenee and Lalina, characters I created back when it was easy to find and touch a Sega console. So yeah, I've been drawing for the past quarter century and can offer a few tidbits so you can become a better artist. You can find this in my other original works at lifeforever3.com. So, last episode, I talked about drawing small blobs in the corner of your paper before doing anything else. This is so you're not spending hours drawing something that wasn't a good idea in the first place. After drawing a few of them, are one or two close enough to what you had in mind? Honestly, I'm going to tell you to take your time and don't rush. You can get several ideas for several pictures all in one very active brainstorming session. At the end, you can pick out what you need for now and save the rest for later. You can even make the entire drawing session of the night just making poses. Give yourself some long-term goals. Once you got the first idea to work on, it's time to take that and fill the page. But since I'm obligated to block you at every turn, don't do it yet. First, decide how much it needs to be filled. Ask yourself, how much detail do you actually need? Imagine your finished picture on your entire sheet from edge to edge. Yeah, it's pretty and you worked really hard. Now, shrink it as much as you can without losing that detail. Can it fit on a 5x7 inch sheet of paper and still look as good? Or can you go even smaller and have your individual lines, patterns, and elements hold? Sometimes your textures and realism need to rely on that extra touch with that giant poster board sized drawing pad you were excited to buy. Go ahead, glance over at it because I know you have one. But huge sketches mean more physical work and you want to use your finite time along this moral coil wisely. So draw what's necessary for the details you want. Main point is don't draw so much. I know, right? Weird coming from me. But I can't tell you how many times I've worked long hours on a single fully rendered illustration that should have just been a sketch, and I would have been happy enough with it. I mean, just the fact that I got the idea out of my head, you know? I'll give you two examples. I did some fan art of Noodle from Gorillaz because I loved the Sirens Bars music video when it dropped, and I spent minutes upon hours making sure the sketch was right, that it was angled properly, that her energy was about showing off her legs. I thought about how fuzzy the coat was going to be, and I ended up drawing her just before she entered the house. And here's the final result. Looks good, huh? At least for my skills at the time. But this is honestly one of my most boring pieces ever. There's a reason why it's not on the main website. lifeforever3.com, move to media. Should have never even left my sketchbook. I personally feel like those lost hours could have gone towards something even more amazing. Honestly, keep some of your stuff hidden away. Having a bunch of your plain sketches, like, make them work their way up from the farm leagues. By the way, the second example, well, you're looking at it. Ironically, this artwork you're seeing right now, Lenee and Lalina, to get the time-lapse array, I put all of the original screen recordings together and they were over 24 hours. A total of nearly 36 hours altogether and almost 42 before editing around the pauses. So I spent that much time on some cherished characters from the past, more of an emotional decision than an efficient one. Now granted, I love how this came out, way more proud of this one. But still, at the time, I just wanted to see something renewed and remade, and I probably should have just gone up to flat color at most. We have a short amount of time to draw during our work days. We have a short amount of time in life. If that was a little too deep and real for this art video, leave a comment. Not dead yet? Cool, keep listening. Well, now that I've talked about the time vampire that is the art world, this is where the fun begins. Let's start sketching your very first failure. Yeah, I said it. You need to remember what a sketch is. It's the rough draft. It's supposed to look horrible and scratchy. You make several mistakes and then decide what stays and what you erase. I bet you've been trying to draw your favorite cartoon characters by slowly drawing the outline of them first, concentrating extra hard for the lines to be smooth and perfect, trying to keep your extra shaky hands still and precise like the professionals. I bet you also failed every time you tried. What, gonna cry about it? Reality check. Except for the very few who can actually pull that off, no professional artist can draw like that. And they don't have to. This rough sketching you're doing right now is the low-pressure, high-yield technique that allows you to breathe as you plot your next move. Sketching is the act of constantly scratching the paper. It has loose techniques that allow short strokes and some fairly long lines. It's more dialed in to draw the same line over and over in the same place until the bits of graphic are where they need to be. Then, since you should have those more advanced pencils and erasers I spoke about last time, you can precisely erase what you don't need. Another thing, stop trying to work on one section at a time just after getting a blank sheet of paper. Just picture this with me, because we've all been there before. Your first time trying to see if you can become a serious artist, you're excited, you have your paper, your pens, your pencils, whatever your reference material was, a video game character, a magazine clipping. Some of you really did try with that still life classic bowl of fruit. Anyway, you're just going to do your best and hope that you have a great piece of artwork at the end. But then you start that whole drawing as slow as steady as you can, and if you mess up with one line, you completely erase it, try again, and then that just repeats itself over and over. Eventually though, you get those lines right and you have an entire arm or leg drawn. But then you realize you drew it way too small or too big, or not at the right place on the paper, and now you're not even sure where to put the rest of the body parts. Also, since you didn't even draw the entire pose out at first, you're not even sure what angles everything's supposed to be at anymore. Let me offer this then. How about we do it the way the professionals start and just draw stick figures instead? No, really. That's actually an efficient way to start your art, but these stick figures need to be much better than the ones your parents couldn't get off the fridge fast enough. No, your sketches need actual human proportions and things like knees and elbows, standard features. Draw out the skeleton of your subjects. Do it all over your canvas first. Quick aside, if you're a beginner, this is a challenge to see if you chose the right size paper for your project. You'll find out at the end after adding all the details you thought were necessary, and then you can adjust for the future. Once you have your sketch skeleton down, you'll know and not guess where everything should be as you create. You can use whichever shapes you want to fill out the head, ribcage, and pelvis, but I recommend the circle, triangle, and pentagon respectively. Use dots or circles for the pivots and the limbs, rounded triangles for the hands and feet, angled lines for fingers and toes. You have to build the foundations before making the finished product, so spend some time at this step. Soon enough, your skeletons won't even need this much detail. You can just draw more dynamic stick figures as you gain experience, even possibly to the point where you don't need the stick figures at all. And you don't need to try and trace anything either. We're drawing real life objects by actually looking and learning about them. This is how artists get better at their craft. If you're drawing a real person, have a photo of them. Drawing a landscape, go learn what atmospheric perspective is. Like right now if you don't know. Pause the video if you need to. If you're drawing some weird mutant, use pics of discussing real life things and mix it up. You won't believe the horrors living at the bottom of the ocean and even on our own skin. I know you're mad at the age of AI looking at artists get better at its craft, but it's acting no different than how you should be. We'll talk more about that soon enough. Just please keep your voyeurism tasteful, well, at least legal. You can start by watching previous episodes and subscribing to this channel. Also leave a comment with what you'd like help with. We both need to contain content so we can move the media. Peace.